What's up, fellow LEGO train lovers? Would you buy this LEGO train station? I know I surely would. What if I told you there's a chance that LEGO produces this set? And what if I told you you have a chance at buying that said set? Well, there's a program you may be familiar with known as the LEGO Ideas Program, in which you can submit all sorts of sets to become potential LEGO sets. That's not the program I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Bricklink Designer Program. Believe it or not, this is a creation I designed over several months, and I finally submitted something to the Bricklink Designer Program. Series 7 just closed the other day. I submitted this to be a potential model to become a build in Series 7. If that's the case, it would go into production and be available sometime in 2026. Now, the one cool thing about the Bricklink Designer Program is that you can actually vote on your favorite creations. Monday, February 10th, you can go on Bricklink and you could vote on this train station. If you look at this video today and you're like, wow, this is a pretty awesome build, 1, thank you. 2, please go vote for it. But even if you don't care for this model, I still recommend you go on Bricklink Monday, February 10th to vote for your favorite creations and designs from all other designers around the world. The top voted designs have a great potential of becoming an actual LEGO set part of the Bricklink Designer Program, in which you can buy and have at your home and in your collection, or you can include this in your LEGO city. Now let's take a deep dive in to check out all the cool features of this train station that I created. No, it doesn't come with a LEGO train. I'm pretty bummed about that myself. I focused on the train station design and I made sure that it included the RC train track that is on the bottom of the base plate, so this could easily be incorporated into your LEGO city, or you can buy any other LEGO train set on the shelf today and simply connect it right to it. You could also take the train tracks off and replace them with 9V if you wish to. It's very simple and easy to probably do that. While showing people my creation, a few people did ask me the question, where did you get inspiration to build a train station like this? You know, it's quite unique and has different features to it. Well, I got a lot of the inspiration from older train stations, both in the area where I live near Scranton, Pennsylvania, and in other towns such as Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. In Jim Thorpe, there's a train station that has a 2-story cylindrical tower. I really liked that design. When I first saw it a couple years back when I was there with family and friends, I really liked the design of that tower. And I knew at some point in time when I had built a LEGO city, I would want to incorporate that into a model. Well, several months ago, I decided, hey, I really want to get into the Bricklink Designer Program. I want to at least throw my hat in the ring and try something out. I started off with this tower. I knew I wanted to make this into a train station, but I started with the tower and I did a lot of different iterations to kind of see what would work. I realized I wanted something to look, curved or cylindrical. I didn't want it to look too blocky. And I then came up with a design where you're using these round slopes or these curved slopes that when you have 6 sides, a hexagon, it makes it look much more like a circle. So that's how I kind of based the design. Then I worked through different iterations to make it possible. Once the tower was when I had the base floor of it built, that's when I expanded the rest of the train station and went from there. I knew I wanted the station on this side and then a platform out front, and then I didn't know what I was going to do out front, but I think it came to life and it really works. I went with the tile design on the top of the train tracks that is a flush mount and almost like a continuous railroad across the platform. Moving over to this side, we get our first 2 stickers with the set. Now these stickers would be redesigned by somebody at LEGO if this becomes a real set. However, I designed these and printed them to kind of emphasize the idea. These stickers are simply just 2 white stripes on these tiles, and I have 2 of them, so they'd be identical stickers to make this look like a continuous crosswalk. On the other side of the rails, I went with railroad ties. Now the railroad ties in the actual model I submitted are dark brown. I did not purchase them in dark brown because the 1x1s currently in dark brown aren't in many sets. They're not on LEGO Pick-a-Brick, and they're over $1 a piece. But I went with reddish brown for now because it still looks good. However, the dark brown is just more realistic in my opinion, and it looks cooler. The railroad ties in real life, they're coated with a coal tar-like substance. The preservative they're actually coated with is called creosote. I might be saying that wrong. However, it's a dark tar-like black substance, like a wood stain that's very thick, and they're completely coated. New ones today that get installed on the railroad near my house are they're an extremely dark brown. And that's why I just think the dark brown looks more realistic. However, a lot of people have done the railroad ties and they just simply use the reddish brown. I think that still looks good. And I think the railroad ties with the brown tiles or brown plates still look much cleaner than just having the gray rails there. And I think it adds to the depth of the set and makes it look a little more realistic. Moving on to the train station deck platform itself. I went with the dark tan color, or LEGO refers to this as a sand yellow. I think this is a nice wood color style for the decking I wanted on this train build. Yes, it is a lot of tiles. However, train stations in my area, including the one in Jim Thorpe where I got some of the inspiration from, and many of the ones near me, they use a ton of deck boards. Now, something you'll notice that some of you may like or dislike are the modified plates or modified tiles, the jumpers within the platform here. These are simple stud connections that allow us to place minifigures. For example, on this side over here, I have them standing here on these two studs. I included another jumper plate here by the ticket window. That is a nice spot where somebody would be standing to get their ticket at the window, and then a couple other scattered ones, including the ones over here by the crosswalk. The Bricktown sign, this is Bricktown. This is the Bricktown station or the train station, but the set is called Bricktown Station. The next sticker is actually the ticket sign. Now, these stickers, as I said, would be redesigned by an official LEGO designer, and they would look much cleaner, but I just printed out stickers to kind of give the idea of what I'm looking to do or looking to have on the set. Now, over here next to the tower, we do have a ramp that comes down onto a sidewalk. This sidewalk is just a typical sidewalk made with tile pieces, the large 4x4 tiles, and this would go down right into your LEGO city. That's just one access point to the platform. As we move around, we have lots of plant life. So I have lots of bushes out here. I went with the bush design because, I don't know, it's a clean piece. I like how it looks. And then we have our figure here that's our landscaper with shears. They would just be trimming them and making them look nice. Now, before I go into the door, I'm going to show you the other side of the build here. We have our utility pole. The utility pole I really like. This was just such a little part of the design that I'm very happy I included. Some of you might be wondering, why do you have transparent light blue studs on the top of it? Well, if you've ever seen old, utility poles that have the power lines on them along the train track specifically, they have these insulator pieces on them, which are made of glass, and they're often blue. Here's what they look like in real life. I have a couple at the house. My brother has a couple. We've kind of found them over the years, but they're actually from old utility poles where they would be an insulator to prevent the electricity from, going down the pole and into the ground. It would keep the electricity within the wire and keep everything safe. It wouldn't electrify anything else around the area. Okay, so after the utility pole, I put a picnic table here. Now, there could be a lot of stuff you could put in this area, but I think the picnic table is like the cutest or nicest little thing you could have because it's a nice little spot for somebody to have lunch and hang out. It's a little better than a bench because it could be for a group of people. You could fit several minifigures on here. You could at least fit 6 comfortably. Now, moving back to the tile here, this is all sort of like a brick design. Now, I went with the different colors here, the dark orange, the medium nougat, the reddish brown. I just went with a randomized design here where you'd have bricks and tiles like all kind of thrown together. There's no really rhyme or reason to it other than simple rules of trying to prevent too many of one color in one location. And again, there are some jumper plates that allow for minifigures to kind of be hooked there just to give it that emphasis of you could put several figures on this and bring it to life and make it look much more realistic. We have lots of plant life over here. This is kind of just filler material, but I didn't want it to look too clean. I didn't want it to have clean mowed grass. I kind of wanted it to be some weeds and plants and random things to give it that additional depth and realistic nature of it. Moving on to the front of the train set, we have the 1903 sticker up top. Again, this would be redesigned, but I wanted to incorporate the date for when this would have been built, when this building is from, and kind of the general era. So 1903, followed by the giant window below it. I love this part of the build. This took a while to kind of make this arch style here, but incorporating all the parts ended up working really well. And the window design, I was very happy with how that came out. Now the doors took a lot of work to make them happen, but they're brick built doors. They're not actually on hinges. They actually pivot on 2 stud pieces. And I did that design because there is minimal friction when the doors are opening or closing against one another. And when I first tried using hinge plates, I made it work, but it just took up too much space on the inside of the building. And I didn't want to make this like a massive, it's a pretty big train station if you ask me, but I didn't want to make it any larger than it is now. And I didn't want to take away from the inside space. Now it is time to look at the inside of this model. The roof lifts off easily. You have to unhook the utility pole. That is something I might want to redesign in the future. And then when this pulls up and off, it slides out. Now on the inside of the train station, when you walk right in the door, there is a nice desk with a desk lamp on it. This is where our ticket guy is, and you could get tickets from him. The desk, I did a little bit of extra design work in it to have drawers with knobs in there, and I like the recessed shelving on the inside, or not shelving, but we have our upper layer of the desk, and then we have a lower layer where you'd have paperwork or whatnot. Then inside there are also plenty of chairs or seating. The seating is for all sorts of passengers. I went with the sand blue because I really like how it contrasts with all the other colors for this set, and I just think it was the right color. I didn't want to put brown in there. We have a small cabinet here that has a couple drawers. This would just be for, the workers and for their paperwork and all sorts of things. Over on the other side here, we do have a clock. You never want to miss your train, and I think every train station should have a clock. I almost didn't include one, but I'm like, hey, it could really use one. Some train stations have that pole outside that has a large clock. For the era of build that this was going for, I thought that would look either too busy or it wouldn't mix well with the model. So I went with the small clock on the inside, and I think it works really well. Now, over here, the bookshelf. The bookshelf is one of my favorite parts of the design because where this tower is, it's rounded and there's a void space in there that was hard to kind of tie in with the building. And at first, I had like the building as an open archway there, and I couldn't make it look nice. It just didn't look good. It looked too busy. So I decided to close it off with a door. Now, this door would be like a utility door for employees only. But when you go in the doorway, there's a ladder up to the top, and then you could actually get to the second floor of this tower, which allows the minifigures or the characters to look out for trains in any direction, or they can look out into the city in any direction, which I like. The bookshelf is interesting because on the one side, I use a panel piece that when you look back in, you see a back brown wall, which adds to the depth. It makes you think that the bookshelf is that deep. And then on the other side here, we have lots of plates and tiles hooked together to be like, books on a shelf that we can't really tell how deep they are. But if we look over on the right side of the bookshelf, knowing that it's 2 studs deep, it makes the illusion that on the left side it's 2 studs deep, where in reality it's slanted. It's a wedge plate in there. On the inside of the roof, I incorporated lighting. Every building should have some lighting if you're trying to make it next level or a better build. We have 4 lights up top. These are like the industrial style light. It's just 2 dish pieces. The last thing I want to talk about are the minifigures for this set. There is a specific number of minifigures you could have based on the part count for this set. I believe I could have had 8 figures for this set because this set is slightly over 2,300 parts. However, I have 7 minifigures because I think that number is more appropriate for this build, and I'm happy with the figures. The first minifigure we have is the child. I went with olive green pants for him and a dark green hat, also the happy face and the blue coat. I think it works well for this figure. Then he is accompanied by the mother figure. She is more of a businesswoman or a working mother. She looks professional and happy and out and about, and she has the dual-sided face, which is also interesting. Then we have a male traveler. He's a bit older. I was unable to get that part before making this video, so I used a torso that I had, but the male traveler is another simple figure. We have the landscaper. Now, she has shears in her hand to be, trimming things and, making sure the bushes outside look good and making sure all the plants are well kept. She pretty much is quite simple. Overalls, a working style outfit with the red hat and ponytail. Again, happy with how this figure came out. I think it works well. Next, we have the ticket guy. The ticket guy is probably one of my favorites. His hairstyle and just his entire look, I think, is very accurate as to what it would be. And so he's just our ticket salesman. Pretty cool figure. Followed by the young female traveler. Nothing crazy about her, just another female character and a young traveler. It's good to have a mix between young and old characters, and that's another thing I was trying to go for. Speaking of young and old, our final character is the old man. He is just sitting down waiting for a train. He's reading a newspaper in the actual Lego set. That's another piece I did not acquire before making this. It is what it is. But he's just hanging out there, waiting and patiently waiting and just enjoying himself, as you would see most people that are, older travelers are usually, more calm and relaxed and kind of waiting for the train versus I feel like, if I'm in a train station or in an airport, I'm running around, I'm checking out different things. I'm not usually, maybe that's just my personality. I don't know. But those are the 7 characters. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I think 7 was a better fit than 8 for this set. Heck yeah. Well, there you have it. This is the Bricktown Station. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to see more LEGO train content. And if you enjoy this model and want it to become a real LEGO train set, go and vote on February 10th for the Bricklink Designer Program Series 7. At least go vote on your favorite models.
Lego, my Jameso.